All right, we're going to get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first of what is hopefully an annual AI Earth Summit here in downtown LA. Give everyone, yourselves included, a round of applause, please. So my name is Ross Mead. I am the Vice President of AI LA, so I've been helping out as much as I can with this. But the truth is that this event and all of our activities that AI LA does can't be done without a fantastic group of contributors who volunteer their time to help us out. So I want to give total credit to them. So first, I'll point out Jorge over there. Wave your hand. So Jorge did all of our branding. If you've seen our articles that have been going up on Medium, he did all the little headers at the top for those. He also made these lovely name badges at 3 a.m. this morning. So yes, he's been fantastic. Arturo there helped with led the website and let's see what else. Website and workshop, design, everything. He does way too many things. Sean over there is on our board of directors, so he helps out with the day-to-day kind of stuff. A big shout out to Choe Grubb, who's over there. Choe actually flew, we flew Choe out from Boston, and she is an expert in environmental sustainability. She wrote all 9 of our current articles that have been published on Medium about the topics we're going to be going through today. And she's just been helping curate a lot of the activities that we'll be doing today. With that, I'm now going to hand it over to the person whose vision this was and who helped make everything happen. Todd Terraza is the president and founder of AI LA. Here he is.
Thanks, Ross. Good morning, everyone. This is, I was planning this since, I think, September of last year, and when I was really figuring out how every month I wanted to focus on a different theme. And I wanted to make April really about sustainability and climate change because of Earth Day. And it took us to this day, right, where actually people showed up, and we're gonna have fun and get some work done today, and hopefully make this an annual event, especially because what we do today will help us make it bigger and better for next year when we can actually celebrate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And so this is all for you, this is all for our Earth, and it really wouldn't be possible with our contributors, without you, definitely without our sponsors. It's a beautiful space we're in today. It's the AWA Oasia. Who here has ever been here before when it's called the Springs? Only like 3 people. All right. Anyways, it's a beautiful space. If you ever need to rent anything, have an event space, or really anything. James Shaw, he's instrumental. He's one of the owners in the back. Let's give it up for him, please. He's been really helpful to make sure that we have this amazing space all day for us. Again, my name's Todd Terraza. I'm the president and founder. And right now, we are live streaming this. If you don't know anything about AI LA, our intention is to really develop Los Angeles into the AI hub for social good. We want to democratize AI, which means that everyone understands how these technologies impact our daily lives, society, and industry. And that's why we go about doing this every month with a different theme, and this one's really appropriate. So instead of us just talking about sustainability and climate change, as we usually do when we go to these types of events, we really want to take action. I think it's always a missed opportunity when we bring so many smart people into the room every day, into these type of events, and then we don't do anything except let people talk. And now this is our opportunity to actually do some work, have everything well documented, allow people to outside of this event to really see the good work that was done, and hopefully we can make some progress. And what's really fortunate is that we actually partnered with Techstars Startup Weekend. And so starting tomorrow through the weekend, we're bringing together a bunch of engineers, business experts, and hopefully some of you to help actually develop prototypes and software solutions for the ideas that come out of this summit. And so we'll see what happens. But like I said before, we couldn't do this without our sponsors. So I first would love to really thank everyone from Xprize, Kluge, Joy Mode. We actually will have some VR entertainment later today at our networking event. And Joy Mode, if you don't know who they are, they basically they're for the millennial where we don't want to own anything, so they just deliver stuff. So actually this projector is from them, and also 2 VR headsets that we have was graciously donated by Joy Mode. Braid Theory gave us a lot of help and support through marketing. Soylent is one of our partners. Every table you'll have a delicious, healthy meal by every table for lunch, so get ready. We definitely, if you didn't know, there's going to be about 500 trees planted because of all of you today. We're not exactly today, but in honor of you because of today. Thanks to Forest Nation. So Jessica's somewhere in the room. Yeah, anyways, but thanks to Forest Nation, we'll be planting about 500 trees today. So thank you. So there's more progress than just what we're going to be doing through our facilitated breakout sessions. There's actually going to be trees planted in your names. So thank you. And also, hopefully you can take one of our water bottles so you can stay hydrated and sustainable and not be using single-use plastics. And then also we'll be handing out little trees that you'll be able to take home and hopefully plant if you have a garden. But I'd like to hand it off to Marcus from Xprize, who will talk about what Xprize does, and yeah, hopefully you'll get more involved. So thank you.
Thanks so much. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Good. Cool space, right? Yeah, first time for me, too. It's a real thrill to be here. My name is Marcus X. DeVore. I work at Xprize Foundation. We're another LA not-for-profit. We're down in Culver City. This is what Xprize is about. We're about trying to inspire the world, including people like you, to solve some of our grandest challenges. Not just invent a tech whiz-bang thing, but something that can actually benefit humanity in a broad way. I think today, thanks to this organization and Todd and everybody, we're here to talk about the intersection of AI and the Earth, and sustainability, and the environmental movement. At Xprize, we use the prize model. So what's that? The prize model means we raise a bunch of money, we design a competition, and then we say, hey, who has a solution to this problem? For instance, mapping the ocean floor, removing carbon from point sources, joining in with the AI for good movement, turning the direction of AI towards positive impact. We don't know how to solve it, but we bet somebody out there does. If you can solve the problem, we'd like to give you a giant novelty-sized check. So that's what prizes are. The idea is if we create a lot of momentum and dynamism around a prize competition, it can help mobilize a community, it can help inspire further action. So we're thrilled to be part of this day today. We operate prizes in a few areas. One of them is AI. So we've got a couple people here that are running our AI prize. Danny and Nima are here. You're going to see them in the afternoon. Matt is here, who runs our oceans-related program. He's running oceans prizes. Nikki is here, who works in energy and carbon. She's at the back of the room. And I work in energy and carbon as well. I think if there's one thing we'd love to impart to you today is to help us have better prize competitions by getting involved. So we run 8 prizes. You can check them out on our website. I won't run through them. Also, we're creating online communities to help get broader crowd input on how to design future prizes. This is a room that can really help us think about how can AI intersect with learning, with environmental movement, with oceans, with all the areas in which we work. So my challenge to you today is help us get smarter and better about how AI can intersect with trying to design and hopefully solve some of these grand challenges. Look forward to today, and look forward to seeing a lot of you this afternoon in the breakouts. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marcus. Yeah, we have a bunch of Xprizers out here today, and it's really grateful for them to come out and spend their day with us. Next up is going to be our keynote by Rihanna Berlin. We had the pleasure of meeting through a good friend of mine, Nathan Walworth, and look forward to hearing Rihanna speak. So can we give it up for Rihanna Berlin, please?
Hello. It's great to see everyone here today. I do not have a prize or a check to offer you, but what I have is knowledge, which is priceless. Okay, thank you. And so I also just want to say thank you to Todd and to AILA. I was at their Google event, which was amazing and super fun, and I look forward to this whole day and whatever they have coming for us in the future. So I am honored to kick us off. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the environmental situation and where we are today, and then we'll talk about how artificial intelligence is already helping solve some of the world's most pressing problems. Okay, so I'm going to keep it a little bit informal. There'll be times for you to participate within my presentation, and then there'll be a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. So before we get started, I'll just give you a quick brief about my background. I get a lot of questions about it because I've had many different jobs in the sustainability space over the last 25 years. So notably, I had the pleasure to serve on President Obama's leadership team at the US EPA. And over there, I headed strategic communications, domestic and international, for the country. I also headed up our internal think tank, which means that the White House would call me and say, quick, figure out how to roll out a program to every college in the country by Friday. So it was, problem solving like we're going to do today, and very exciting. I've also headed a green nonprofit. I've launched and sold a few startups. I worked in CSR at Edelman Public Relations in their London office, and while I was there, I headed over to the London School of Economics and studied the impacts of globalization on climate change. And last but not least, I taught yoga to the United States Senate. So another role that I had at EPA was to oversee Earth Day for the country. So in honor of the 49th Earth Day on Monday, I thought we could start our talk back when there were no environmental regulations at all in the country. So, for instance, there was no law dictating how to dispose of your car. So we had situations like this all over the country. I don't know if any of the older folks here remember those days. Okay, just me. So in 1970, President Nixon, a Republican, launched the EPA and gave us the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, regulations around toxic chemicals, environmental justice, and so many other human safeguards that we take for granted today. So this photo and the next few are from the Documerica project. So when the EPA was launched, they sent 70 photographers around the country to document the state of environmental degradation. And I encourage you to go onto the National Archives and look at the photos. They're quite incredible. So this one is waste along the banks of Hoboken, New Jersey, where you can now buy $1 million condo. And you can see Manhattan in the distance there. So I grew up in this part of the country, and I remember telling my father that he should buy that property, right? It's on the Hudson River bank, who knows? And so he said to me, why? It's a garbage dump. And so that always resonated with me, because when we look at the environment, we see different things, right? Different people see different things. I saw something very different than what my father saw. One man's trash is literally one man's treasure. So today you may want to ask yourself, what do you consider valuable about the environment? It's a really important question, because if you are working on sustainability, I promise you that over the course of your career, you will have to fight so hard for what you love. Okay, who knows what these are? Yes. These are nuclear cooling towers in West Virginia. So we're going to be talking about environmental justice today. Both Los Angeles County and Los Angeles City are about to launch new sustainability reports. And you'll see in those reports that there is a lot of attention to permitting and zoning for environmental justice. We really run into trouble with EJ around those issues. Do we have any community organizers here? Good, good. I just want to give a huge shout out to you guys because it's because of your work and because of your attention that there's been so much movement on EJ and that there are changes now in the sustainability plan. So well done. And we look forward to addressing that topic later. Okay, this is our last photo, and this, of course, is our beloved city. And that is smog that is making the air so yellow. Who was impacted by the air quality of the Woolsey fire over the winter? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of hands go up. So how many days of bad air quality do we have? 5, 10? Wow, okay, 89 bad air quality days. Thank you for that stat. Okay. So in the 1970s, this is a direct quote from NRDC. Does anybody want to guess how many days that we had unhealthy levels of pollution in Los Angeles per year in the early 1970s? How many days? Close. 200. Every year we had more than double what we experienced from the Woolsey fire. So this is what the air looked like. It rivaled modern day China. So, you know, we've made some incredible advances since then, right? We're not breathing this air in unless we have, you know, some kind of fire event. So if things got so much better, why are we in the dire situation we're in right now? What happened? Right? In some ways, things got a lot better, and in some ways, things got a lot worse. So I just want to quickly run us through the last few decades. So by the mid-70s, we have regulation in full swing, right? And then what happens? Industry wants to fight back, right? Because they have a lot of restrictions now. So corporations, the oil companies in particular, put huge PR campaigns into motion denying climate change, right? And because they had budgets that were millions, tens of millions of dollars higher than the nonprofits or the journalists or the consumers who were trying to bring another dimension to that argument, they got way out in front of us, and everybody believed, you know, that climate change may not be happening. So there's, you know, we could have a whole talk just about that today. But there's an incredible podcast called Drilled, and they really talk about how this happened with the climate change deniers, and I encourage you to look at that. So it wasn't until the 90s that the other side, you know, with 1% of the funds to fight this huge PR battle, was able to catch up. And now, we started to have consumer awareness finally. So in the environmental space, the consumer awareness always starts with food, right? Which makes perfect sense, right? We're really connected to food, we love it, we're a little obsessed with it. So the organic food movement was really coming into full swing then in the 90s, and we had a lot of attention around GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and that's actually how I got into the environmental movement, right? I saw what was happening, and I was in Manhattan with my little sign protesting Starbucks and some other places for some of their practices. So the consumers really got started there, and that started to shift the whole tide, and we realized what was happening, that climate change is, you know, actually dire. I will also credit in the 80s and 90s some really forward-thinking corporations like Patagonia, right? the earliest version of Whole Foods, which was started with the best of intentions in Austin, Texas, before Amazon got hold of it. And I'm seeing a couple of furrowed brows in the audience. So I am giving you a very brief overview. We're skipping over a lot of steps. Of course, it has been a very complex situation over the last few decades, but I want you to get an idea of the politics of what we're getting into, because it really plays a role when you try to solve a problem. Moving forward, you need to know what you're up against, politically, with the consumer approach and the history of what's been going on and how deep some of the ties are against the work that you'll be doing. Okay. Lastly, over the past 15 years, we've seen this incredible consumer demand, right? For me, this is really exciting. I've been working on this for a long time, and I've never seen just the average person really get into the environment, protecting the environment, shopping greener, having an awareness, being able to talk about it. Super exciting, right? There's cover stories in every magazine, mainstream. You hear about environmental things every single day. So I'm kind of loving that. I'm very excited. There's a lot of awareness, and of course the technology and innovation has made it really sexy, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, so as I said, and as you know, the situation we're in is not that great. These are predictions that assume about a 4-degree of warming in this planetary warming in this century, which is possible. Of course, we're facing a national hurdle to convince the country and the White House that urgent work needs to be done. Our government, which is not the government that I worked for, is actually working against the environment. They're trying to bring back coal. I mean, coal is the primary driver of climate change. So all I can say to that is, please vote. So obviously we have a lot of life-threatening challenges, but in my opinion, the biggest one we have is that people don't spend enough time outside. We've become a real indoor culture. So REI released an interesting statistic last year, REI, the outdoor camping company. They told us the percent of time that the average person spends indoors. Who wants to guess? 95. 95% of their time indoors. So if you do the calculation, it works out to roughly the 2 times a day that you're outside walking your dog. Okay, so what's the problem with that? We will forget the majesty, the awe and wonder, the happiness that we get when we're outside. How it transforms us, the peace, the calm, and just, the sacred balance of everything in harmony, the things that only millions of years of evolution can give us. We just don't appreciate that. So I've got a great example for you. My 5-year-old neighbor, Carlin, came over for pizza. So I thought, I'm going to take Carlin outside to the herb garden, and we're going to pick some basil to put on top of the pizza, right? Learning opportunity. So we went over to the garden, and we touched the plants, and we smelled the basil, and we picked it. And then he stopped me, and he said, Deb, don't be silly. You can't eat plants. Wow. So what happens to a planet that's in the hands of Carlin's generation? So we had that very much in mind with my new company, The Future Reference. We are opening an environmentally focused experiential project right here in DTLA next year to remind people of the awe and wonder and give them an opportunity to get involved. And we're going to have all kinds of communities in there, including my neighbor. So if you want to hear more about that, a couple of my colleagues are in the audience. So Nina Stotler and Dr. Nathan Walworth in the back. And as well as myself, we'll be happy to tell you more later. So, okay, I don't want to continue to be depressing, so we're going to move on to the solutions now. But before we do that, I just want to acknowledge that we really are in a harrowing time. And for those of us who are working in this space, it is hard, and it is scary, and there are days of doom and gloom. So I just want to pause for a minute and give everyone an opportunity to turn to their neighbor and just share their environmental fear. And we're just going to put it out there so that we can move on and talk about some of the exciting solutions. So take 1 minute each, and the first person can get started now. Okay, let's give the second person a chance to talk. Okay. Okay. Well done. Thank you for playing. I love hearing the energy in the room go up. Okay, now we're going to talk about some of the solutions. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so we're ready to be a little more positive. We're moving on to how AI can save the Earth. Okay, so this chart shows some of the areas where artificial intelligence for sustainability is already helping. And over the next few slides, we'll look a little deeper into each area, some of the incredible near future innovations. I want to make a note here, which Nathan told me about, and which is, I think, a lot of you probably know. Makes sense to me that a very exciting aspect of AI is its predictive power, right? So that's already enabling us to anticipate and mitigate human impacts to large areas of the planet. So these efforts will not only help us understand the past and the present, but also enable us to design a regenerative future. And that's what we all want, is the regenerative future. Okay, so are you able to read the small print? Okay, so I will read some of it to you. So, Did anybody happen to see Sunday's New York Times Magazine section? Am I? Okay, so you can tell I haven't been on the West Coast that long. I haven't given up my New York Times yet. So it was devoted to climate change, which was amazing, right? And they had a great quote. They said, the solution to climate change can be summarized in 4 words. Stop burning greenhouse gases. Apparently that turns out to be incredibly complicated, but many of these AI solutions are already helping us do that. So I'm going to read a few of these to you, and then I'll tell you about my favorite. So we've got optimized energy system forecasting, predict solar flares for protecting power grids, smart traffic light and parking systems for urban mobility management, optimized sustainable building design, early crop yield prediction, precision agriculture and nutrition, on-demand shared transport mobility, autonomous vehicles, of course, AI-enabled electric cars, supply chain monitoring and transparency, active optimization of industrial machinery and manufacturing. And there's many, many more. So my favorite right now is the smart grids. So I see some heads nodding. So what this does is allow power companies to predict and distribute energy differently. So when the demand on the power company is very high, for instance, we have a series of 100-degree days in a row, everyone in town is blasting their AC, right? And so the power company is having to dig down to the bottom of the barrel to their dirtiest energy in order to meet extraordinary demand. So that's a little bit like the softball team suddenly coming over to your house to eat, and you're digging into the back of the refrigerator to feed them something, and it's kind of the food that you didn't even think that you were going to eat. So what the smart grid does for us is watch the softball team all the time so that they can anticipate their pattern and then give you plenty of warning as to when they're coming over, so if that makes sense. Okay, so a lot of these are pretty cool. Let me read you a few. We have precision monitoring of ecosystems, bird habitat and migration pattern prediction, register and trading of biological and biomimetic assets. Biomimetic assets, anybody? Okay, good, biomimicry. Plant species identification, machine automated biodiversity analysis, smart mosquito traps, detection of unauthorized animal capture, and pollutant dispersal prediction and tracking. So pretty amazing. For me, the supply chain monitoring is incredible. So that literally allows us to track the illegal use of endangered fish and wildlife. So they can tag a bluefin tuna so we don't eat it for sushi, we just let it keep swimming. It also helps tell you if your produce is truly organic, or if your garment is made in California or Cambodia. So a lot becomes really possible with the supply chain. Does anybody have a biodiversity or a conservation innovation they want to mention? Drone planting of forests. Wow, did everybody hear that? It takes a paintball gun and shoots the seedlings into the ground? What are they called? Carbon engineering, thank you. It's a good one, I'll take one more. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are so many complexities to this, and I'm so glad that we have time today to get into that a little bit deeper in the later sessions, so I hope you bring that up. Okay, so AI for oceans, there's tremendous attention and investment on ocean health right now. So if you're building a business, this is a really good sector to be in. Is there somebody who wants to talk about oceans? What's going on in the oceans? Yes, yes, agricultural land is the largest carbon sink on the planet. Thank you. Oceans?
Take satellite imagery with footprint of human activities in the ocean. You can do things like look at the footprint of human activity with satellite imagery, for instance, describing the extent of mariculture plants and facilities, looking at where ships go.
Yeah, incredible. Satellite imagery to look at what's happening in the ocean more closely. Thank you. One more. Oh, that's beautiful. Robots to assist with coral reefs, the health and the planting of new coral reefs. That's amazing. Thank you. I'm going to read you a couple more from my slide. Monitoring marine habitats for change, monitoring location and quantities of ocean species, predicting the spread of invasive species, marine litter prediction, overfishing prevention and control, automated fish catch thresholds, good one, and real-time monitoring of ocean temperature and pH. So moving on to solutions for water. So to me, the sexiest one here, to me, by far, is the fact that we live in a country full of old, leaky underground pipes. Did you know that? Right? That's how the water's traveling around. And we have no way of telling where there's a leak in the pipe right now. So some people estimate that there's more water leaking through our system of underground pipes everywhere than there is actually traveling through the pipes for us to drink. So this is one of the biggest problems with water issues in our country and probably other countries as well. So AI is somehow magically able to tell us where the leaks are, and then we can just dispatch the team to fix it. So that's a big one. Okay, so solutions for clean air. I thought it was interesting that there were fewer on this slide. And I'm wondering if that's because clean air is a little bit less trendy right now. Sustainability is no different than any other industry where, you know, things kind of go in and out of favor. Oceans and climate are what everybody finds appealing right now. I don't know, just a hunch, I could be wrong. But if you are working on a solution in this area, it's possible you'll have less competition, I don't know. Something to think about. So over here we've got optimized sensor-based air purification systems, advanced battery and fuel cell design, real-time air pollution monitoring and simulations, and pollution level forecasting for up to 10 days. So pretty sweet. And okay, so here we are. These are some of the real game changers. So let me read a few of these to you. Can you see these? They're a little bigger? No, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, smart agriculture, AI-designed smart cities, autonomous farming, end-to-end optimized food system, widespread decentralized energy grids and trading, real-time and public digital dashboards for the earth, AI and weather and climate forecasts, community disaster response platform, Earth Bank of Codes, know what that is. Quantum computers power Earth and material science breakthroughs. And there's a whole bunch more. Here's a quote about the one that I thought the most compelling, about food, of course. So we will be able to apply machine learning to generate personalized nutrition plans that are optimized for individuals. So your own personal nutrition plan. And combine that with fully autonomous farming, autonomous delivery vehicles, in-house robotic chefs, and in-house vertical farming. So the entire food supply chain could be optimized and transformed, creating minimum waste supply chains and providing high yields and your ideal diet. So, pretty cool. Okay, last few slides here. I want to talk about the risks, which are real. So up here we've got performance risks, security risks, control risk, ethical risks, economic and societal risks. I'm sure you're familiar with some of these. The risks are real. Any untested, unknown catalyst that's put into a system can wreak havoc. We know that. The private sector is particularly good at that, but they're also good at leading the solutions. So I am a fan of the Precautionary Principle, which is something that Europe is much better at than we are. It means that you really have to test something very thoroughly before you let it loose into a system. So for instance, in Germany, when they're going to put a new toxic chemical into the environment, let's say like a new type of pesticide, they will actually test it for 1 or 2 generations, right? Here, we test it for 6 months, we pay off the right person in Washington, and out it goes. So I encourage you to be really responsible and consider all the risks of what you're doing. We're truly in a unique opportunity and time to redesign how we're managing our shared global environment. And if we get it right, we'll have the first sustainability revolution, and you will be the pioneers. So in addition to being very thoughtful, I also encourage you to have a well-considered philosophy. It should be your North Star that's guiding your work in this area. These are not the only ones, of course, but this is an extension of my earlier comment about knowing what is valuable to you about the environment. So really have a philosophy. There are incredible superstars in this industry, and we still have the people who brought the modern environmental movement to us in the 70s. They are still out there with us, and they are still doing incredible work, and they all have a really strong philosophy that has guided them through the last 50 years, and I think is the reason that their work has become renowned. Okay, so lastly, I just want to thank you all for doing what you do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your ideas with us all day long. And the world really needs your innovative solutions urgently. So the future of the planet is in your hands. Feel free to get in touch with me. These are my contact details and the credits for what you saw on the slides.
All right, everybody. That was amazing. So we have next is Choe Grubb. As you heard before, we flew her out from Boston. She's been instrumental with really structuring this entire day, legitimizing this whole operation, right? She's been fantastic. She's written 9 articles on Medium for us. And what she has for us coming up, actually you need to switch. Oh yeah, we do. What she was about to do is host a little engaging workshop. It should be fun. It won't require really any slides, but we'll have something on the backdrop. But give us one moment as we set this up. And the next one. Flip it. Cool. And here's Choe.
Well, thank you, Todd. And I'm so excited to be out here all the way from Boston. In particular, it gets me out of school for a couple days for something that I am very passionate about. So I'd much rather be spending my time here. Before we get into the contextualizing workshop that we have planned, I'd first like to just reiterate the breakout sessions that we will be later addressing in the day. So if you look up here, you can see these sessions, and I'm just going to read off the topics to you so that you can have them in your mind. We'll give you more context in terms of the actual definitions of these later on in the day when we get closer to the breakout sessions. But our 8 topics are centered around and kind of derived from the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN. So the first one is climate change, biodiversity and conservation, healthy oceans, water security, clean air, weather and disaster resilience, environmental injustice, and sustainable mobility. So these 8 topics are what will be guiding us throughout the breakout sessions after lunch. Cool. So with those in mind, I would like to move into the contextualizing of environmental change. And kind of building off of what you guys just heard, I'd like to incorporate some of the more personal effects of climate change into our problem solving. So in terms of my introduction, I am an engineer by trade and a user experience designer by choice. Somewhere in this muddled path, I kind of found a passion for environmental issues. And this derived from my fascination with climate change. It's something that's so undeniable, yet it's often disputed. It's intangible, but we're feeling the effects of it every day. And I don't necessarily need to be telling you that it's a problem because you're here for that very reason. You recognize that it is a problem, and you're here to be a part of that solution. But before we dive into that solution, we first need to take a step back and contextualize the issues that we currently face in addressing it. So, despite the risks that climate change poses, and these have been thoroughly documented, people still approach it with a flight rather than fight response. And this doesn't necessarily have to do with our kind of political landscape or the financial discrepancies in terms of addressing it, as more to do with how we think and feel about it. So many of the obstacles that face climate engagement in particular all boils down to how it makes us kind of respond to it. And for example, there was a study done on hundreds of Americans by experts in the field for psychology and political science and neuroscience. And the outcomes of this showed that climate change pretty much, or the barriers for climate change and addressing climate change comes down to that people find it overwhelming. They find it to be depressing, that it is something that seems alarmist, that it's been over-exaggerated, and that it ultimately feels too late to do anything about it, that our actions will not actually have an effect. In other words, it's not that people don't believe or accept climate change. It actually boils down to the fact that how it makes them think, and more importantly, how it makes them feel about it. So I could sit up here and I could spew facts at you all day. I could tell you and reiterate how the world is going to warm by 4 degrees within the next century. I could tell you that the oceans are rising by 1/8 of an inch every year. But those are numbers. There's no scale to that. When you hear those types of things, you kind of put it into the context of, well, the fluctuations in temperatures on a daily basis are more than that. That the hair on your head grows more than 1/8 of an inch in a month. It doesn't seem like that much in the grand scheme of things. It seems inconsequential. So I could put it in terms of consequential. I could tell you that our actions are going to cause the next great mass extinction. I could tell you that 526 million people who live along the coastlines, their livelihoods are in danger because of it. Now, this starts to spark some interest. It definitely raises an eyebrow. Those are massive consequences. However, unless you have a tie to these already existing issues, or unless you have some context around them, it's something that makes you turn your head and maybe think about for a couple minutes, but ultimately move on. It's not until we think about it in terms of ourselves that we can really have a chance to digest what this means. So when people are asked to think about what this means for their grandchildren, their children, their favorite animals, this is when it starts to spark something a little bit more. This is when people start to think about it in terms of this very confusing mix of anxiety and inefficacy that they feel towards climate change. And few of us really believe that we can change the weather or that we can change how much the oceans rise. It's not tangibly within our power. And many of us are privileged in the fact that we are not going to bear the brunt comparatively, the brunt of this burden comparatively to many others in the world. So this environmental burden is not proportionately placed on us. And we shouldn't shy away from these feelings that often lead to denial, that often lead to diminishing and distracting ourselves from this issue. So I propose that with something that of this large of a scale, that we need to embrace emotional intelligence when addressing it. We need to embrace the fact that it's not just facts and figures that will drive the innovation for it, it's the empathy that we can build around it. And there is an increased need for empathy when addressing climate change. So how then do we move away from this traditional view of putting climate change in financial and industrial and political terms and move it more towards a person-focused scale? How do we contextualize it in that way? And by bringing empathy into the fold, it's across different industries, including business and technology, it's proven to lead to increased production and increased kind of acceptance of whatever you are producing. And empathy allows us to really connect with the people around us. It allows us to share our worldview, our fears, our likes and dislikes with those around us. And that same empathy allows our teammates to hear what we have to say, to view it as a problem, and then to help us act on our future vision. So today, I would like to lead us through a couple of exercises that were derived from a Brazilian art director, and his name was Bowl. So these exercises are called Bowl Handshakes. And I would first like to ask people to find groups around 8 or 10 and form loose circles. I know you're all kind of sitting around here, but feel free to move your chairs and move around the space. But form loose circles, and preferably with people that you did not come with. Awesome, yeah. I think it's just going to be... Awesome. Yeah, I'm just waiting for people to finish forming their circles before moving on to the next step. Okay, so it seems like we've got circles formed, and I'll give a couple more seconds for introductions. Okay, so we've got our circles, and it looks like everyone has more or less introduced themselves. Now, within these groups, I want to first preface this with saying that as a user experience designer, I often try to put people into productively uncomfortable situations, which sounds a little scary, but hopefully in this context, it's something that will kind of further your thinking and understanding of those around you. So this bowl handshake has to do with asking people to first, and I'll run it through you before posing the question. I will pose a question to you. You will look down on the ground until you have a memory or a story in mind. And when you look up, try and find someone within your group that is also looking up, and then pair up with them. You will exchange stories during this. And once both of you are done exchanging stories, both of you can look up and find another group to then join again. And as this kind of continues, you switch partners and you move around your group, but within the next 10 to 15 minutes of you sharing your stories, hopefully you get a couple different insights from it. So I would first like to ask if someone could please grab the target bag back there and start handing out some Post-its and Sharpies. Okay, can you, yeah? Okay, cool. So yeah, we're gonna hand out Post-it notes and Sharpies, and while you're listening to the other people's stories, please write down any insights that you hear and anything that you find important from them. So we'll give a minute for that. Yes? I haven't posed the question yet. Just trying to frame how the structure will go before I pose the question, because once I ask it, everyone's going to be heads down thinking of it. Okay. So yeah, we'll probably have to break up the Post-it notes. There's not quite enough for every person to have their own, but you might need to split them in half or... Yes? Yeah, if everyone could grab like a couple Post-it notes off the pile and just start handing them around. I don't think there's actually quite enough for everyone to have their own. No, you should be fine with whatever colors you get. Maybe hand them back that way. All right, is anyone missing Sharpies or Post-notes? Can you hold up your hand if you don't have one? Over there, back there? Okay. He's on his way. Okay, looks like just about everyone has what they need. Now, once again, I think we're good. Okay, so it looks like everyone has what they need, so we're gonna dive right in. And then once again, just to reiterate that this is a process that is meant for you to both share and listen to what the others have to say. Rihanna gave us an incredible introduction to this with the exercise that you had them do about thinking of your greatest fear. But the first story that I want you to think of and come in mind is the first time that you felt a strong emotion because of some environmental issue. So please look at the floor and think of that time, really bring it to mind and what you were feeling and how it happened, and then look up, and whenever you make contact with someone, please begin sharing. Yes. So the story I'm asking you to come to mind here is the first time that an environmental issue, the first time an environmental issue caused a strong emotion in you, that you felt a strong emotion because of it. Yes. however works for you. That is switch chairs, or however works for you to share with your partner. So while everyone's sharing all of their amazing stories, I'm gonna raise my hand. Just raise your hand. Hey guys, can you raise your hand? Hey everyone, if you can hear me, can you raise your hand for a second? Awesome. So I don't want to interrupt your sharing, but I do just want to reiterate that as you're sharing and you kind of conclude your stories between each other, I encourage you to look around and find someone else's story to join in on and to hear that as well. Okay, so continue. Okay, everyone, I'm going to raise my hand again. If you can hear me, can you please raise your hand? Woo! All right, it's spreading, it's spreading. Some hands are raising. Waiting for the back of it. So if you can hear me, can you please raise your hand? We're winding down, winding down. Right, as you close off your last thoughts, I heard some really amazing stories out there, everything ranging from the effects to wildlife to the effects of air pollution in our very own backyards here in California. So thank you again for sharing those. It was really a privilege to hear them. Now I want to ask you a very similar, or in the similar vein, I want you to think of a different story. And doing the same practice, feel free to, as you're thinking of it, look at the ground, and then when you look up, try and make eye contact with someone and go and share your story with them, and then cross-pollinate as you see fit as you finish sharing. So the next question I want to ask you is to think of the first time that climate change affected your personal life, affected you personally. So this can sometimes be hard for people, especially since within the US, we're not feeling as many of the effects, but think of within your family, your friends, your community, society, everything like that. But think of a way in which it has affected you or that it will affect you. And then please share that. Thank you. Yes. Climate or environmental issues in general, yes, yes.